you doing, Daddy?
Talking about.
Where's God? I don't see him.
You don't see him. Well, you see that beautiful moon up there?
Yes, ma'am.
That's God. Baby, God is everywhere. And He listens. You can talk to Him about anything.
I am here with the amazing, the talented Miss Kiki Lauderdale, author of You Can't Hear Hummingbirds. She's screenwriter, playwright, singer, and domestic violence and childhood abuse survivor. So, Miss Kiki, tell us a little bit about
Yes.
yourself and where you're originally from.
Okay, well, hello everyone, and Wanda Blake, thank you for having me. I'm Kiki Lauderdale. Yes, I love to write. I share my story. It's not a great story, but I use my story to help others. So that's what makes it great out of everything that I've been through. I was born on Galveston Island, but I wasn't raised in Galveston Island. I was raised between several places, and the reason why I say several places and try to be distinct about it because the book, I left the names out of it, to I guess to protect the survivors and the those of us who are still living,
Mhm.
uh, who I want to say who survived that pain. So just for the anonymity of them keeping it quiet, I'm not speaking too much about it because it has been getting a lot of buzz out here with family members, and that's okay too. I'm not trying to make anybody uncomfortable, but the truth is the truth, if that speaks volumes. But I have lived in New York, I've lived in California, I've lived in Louisiana, I've lived in Pennsylvania, I lived all around, put it that way. So now I'm here in Texas on Galveston Island.
Okay, KK, and it is a truth. It is your truth. And, I do understand when family members get a hold of the book and they like, okay,
Yeah.
what? But
Who
I
am I?
mean,
What part was I?
right, right. So it's best to have that little part. You know the truth and you know your story. So that's that.
Yeah.
Um, Now how did you get into writing?
Honestly, I believe that, well, music was my thing. I love music.
Hmm.
But I believe that in order, when I was younger and we were going through the abuse, my little brother and I was trying to rewrite stories in my head to remember the people that loved us and that taught us love. I
Hmm.
would draw little stick figure people, and I guess that's how I had a passion for drawing. But then I would write little makeshift stories of, grandma's gonna come and get us, and grandma's gonna. So I guess I just had a passion for it, as a kid since I was young. And I did write for my school's newspaper when I was like in the sixth grade, and they noticed my talent before I did. So I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay.
Untapped talent.
Yeah, had no clue.
Now, as far as me, my own imagination as a child kept me sane, and books of any magnitude, any novel, they were my outlets to normalcy and freedom before I turned 13. Now, was your imagination your quiet escape as a child?
It definitely was. I believe that, and the fact that before I was taken from those that loved me, I was taught to pray and talk to God. So God
Mhm.
is a main, huge foundation in my story because literally you don't understand that then.
Right,
But
right.
the things that they're teaching you, you take with you in life. And that helped me during the abuse times because I remembered my grandmother speaking to God, at nighttime.
Mhm.
And I was, well, who are you talking to, Grandma? She's like, oh, I'm talking to God. So, where's God? I don't see him, I was
Right.
that kid, where? I want to see it. She's like, well, come over here. She sits me down. Do you feel that? Or do you see the moon? Do you see this? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. That's all God. And you
Oh,
can talk to him. And, so that eased a lot of things with me when I couldn't see him. She's like, if I put water in your hand. It's clear, right? You could feel
Mhm.
it. It goes
Right.
through you. I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, hold your hand out. And she's like pouring a little water in my hand and I could hold it. And then she pours more and it evaporates and it's nothing. It's clear. She said, you can feel that, right? I said, yeah. I said, actually, I could see you pouring it in my hand. She said, but get the midst of it. God is like invisible to us, but he's here. You can feel
Facts.
him. She's like, you feel the air? It's like, yes, ma'am. And so that it went a long way with me because when I was talking to God during those times, I'm like, she said that I could talk to you and you would help me. Well, you're not helping me. I want to leave, I
Mhm.
want to go back to my grandmother. But when you're 5, God meets you at your needs.
Right. Right.
Exactly. So, the calming spirit always, even though it was a lot of abuse, the calming spirit allowed me to be calm for my brother's sake because he
Right.
was a couple years younger than me, you know. So, yeah.
What time frame did you grow up in, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure, in the 70s,
The 70s.
mid 70s, 80s. Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy work.
crazy work. Yeah, because it's a period piece. And, in order to write it, you literally have to go back in time. But thank God I had a memory. I have a memory like an elephant, people always tell
Right.
me. But, when you experience trauma, you can shut out things that you don't want to remember.
Right.
You can literally just be so torn and hurt that you don't want to remember it, and you won't if you keep going that method. I don't want to know. It'll fade out farther and farther and farther from you. I
Right.
tried that too, but on this journey I prayed and I was like, God, I just want to write the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I don't want to add to it. I don't want to take away from it. So if you can help me remember. And literally the nightmare started back.
Mhm.
um every single thing, smells came back to me.
Mhm.
My habits that I formed out of living in fear, even my epistasis, which was a condition where my nose would just free bleed,
Oh,
it
wow.
started back out of nerves. Yeah, it literally started back. Yeah, biting my nails. It was a lot. It's like I took that whole thing back
Mhm.
on again that I had did so well at pushing and
Managing.
suppressing. I managed it. I suppressed it. And I see why a lot of people, I'm not saying it's right, but I see why a lot of people will turn to like a substance or either, a drug or whatever it may be, a drink, some
Mhm.
people, whatever soothes that whole I don't want to remember thing and it
Right.
calms it down, that's what they'll do. And so I was just thankful that prayer was always mine. Prayer,
Right.
prayer, prayer. Since a little girl, I pray, 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 pray. And I would go to that like, okay, God, I know you're saying I need to share this story, but I mean, what am I getting out of this? I'm going
Right.
back into this and I don't like that. And my grandmother, I have 2 grandmothers. The story is dedicated to um I'm sorry, the story is
It's
dedicated
okay.
to God and both grandmothers. And so on her deathbed, she basically said, I wish I had someone write my story. And so that's why I took the initiative to write.
Okay. It's amazing how you held on to that love piece of your journey, because some kids don't know to do that. So your grandmother instilling that in you was, I guess that's what carried you through, like you said.
It's true.
Now, you are a victim of child abuse and you witness domestic violence daily. And you were just explaining how some of it impacted you. How did it impact you as an adult?
Well, literally for me, as an adult, and I can't say that I didn't experience, a relationship or two where it was little domestic violence in there, but I didn't stay. The difference with me and, the situation that I grew up in and watching my mother go through things, yeah, it was that was a no for me. I understood that. Okay, this is not good. This is not fun. I'm gonna hurt you, or
Right,
you're gonna hurt me because if you keep hitting me, then I'm gonna fight back. I just didn't want to be that one to just keep taking abuse. And I would even see my mom, and I would sit and say to myself, I just wish you just, fight back. And sometimes I just wish you just leave. So that's what kids do, because if I try and help them, which I did, I'm going to get slapped and knocked around too and sent
right.
off to my room. So at the end of the day, yeah, I'm not interested in, if you got to hit me to talk to me, or if I got to hit you to talk to you, we don't need to be together.
Facts.
That's volatile. And I'm sorry, and you don't want your kids to see it
Right,
because
right,
it
right,
does repeat itself, because some kids think it's okay. Hey, my mom went
right.
through it. I can do it too. No, I think not. It had
Facts.
me the opposite. I don't want to do anything that my mother did. Not to say my mother's a bad person, but her life is her life and mine is mine. We're going to do things differently. I'm
Right,
not
right.
sticking around. Yeah.
I
So,
I do believe that when we are, as we grow up, and in the 70s and 80s was a crazy time where you had the drug epidemic and the abuse and the child abuse and quiet rapes. That was the period, I believe.
yes,
And you grew up holding that. You took it with you because that helped. We have help now for the kids in our community, but back then there was no help, only removal of the child from that home, I
that's
think.
it. That's it. And then they take you somewhere else to have some stranger do the same thing to you that the other person was doing to you, or worse.
Right.
That's what it
Terrible.
was. Terrible.
We
Yeah.
need reparations.
Yeah.
We need
Oh, say
reparations.
it again. Yes. Yes.
I'm telling you.
Laws
So,
need to be changed.
yes, laws need to be changed, but we still need, I mean, for the ones who spoke up,
Oh, yes.
reparations, because that healing
Reparations.
lifetime. Now,
Absolutely.
how did you heal, and did you take the trauma into adulthood, or are you still unpacking?
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to just keep it honest. Um, I prayed. I meditated. I prayed. I tried everything that I could. I went through several types of, the non-denomination. Well, let me try this religion and that religion and this, because I was finding myself. My base was God, but I needed to find myself, which religion is going to speak to me and feed me spiritually, because I know that God exists. And I know
Mhm.
that he brought me through some things, because
Right.
I remember saying to myself, like, if I cry out hard enough, and this is what I remember, when I cried out hard enough, he really paid attention to me, like a child that's having a temper
Hmm.
tantrum. He paid attention to me. So I knew that he communicated with me. So I said, you know what, God, I need your help, because I don't want to be that person that I didn't like, who was hitting me. I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to just accept all this bad things that's going on. I didn't want to accept that. So at the end of the day, what I did, I told my kids, I said, listen, y'all don't know about me. Y'all don't understand why y'all can't spend the night at people's house. Sorry.
I'm telling you.
And y'all don't understand why, I'm not going to do a lot of yelling. I'm not going to do a lot of yelling in front of y'all, and I tell y'all to go to your room if me or your father have to have a conversation, or you guys just stay out of it. Yeah. Is what happened to me coming up. And I sat them down and I explained it to them, because I didn't want them to think, oh my God, mom said no, we can't go to so and so's
Right,
house.
right,
Without giving them the explanation. It used to be no, and no, it's just no. Just no. You don't have to
right,
ask me why, but it's just no. Well, mom, this person and that person is nice, honey. I don't know them. I don't
right,
know them.
right,
And so I explained to them, they was like, oh my God. But mom, we didn't know that happened to you, because you don't do us like that. No, I don't have to hit you to discipline you. I could take your cell phone. I
right,
could take your computer, and I could
right.
hurt you just as worse. Because
Fact.
if you take that from a kid, oh my God, how am I going to reach all my friends? And I don't know, how are you? Because you're not getting that phone, but it's ways that we can do things. And that's what I've learned about it. So prayer worked for me, and just talking to anybody who would listen, people that I was close to. Hey, look, this happened to me. And I don't want to lose focus. I have kids here, and I don't want to lose it on my kids if I get mad. What do I do? If they get out of line. And I do believe in discipline. Don't get me wrong, because I don't think kids should be talking smart and talking back. I don't.
Facts,
And,
facts.
and you get so many warnings, but I do believe in discipline, but it's how you discipline. So I've learned, like I said to my kids, even the Bible says, if I don't spare the rod and I spoil the child, then I'm like, so all I'm saying to you is, if you get disrespectful to me, you're going to get your behind spanked. It's nothing wrong with that, but it's just how you discipline. And they had to respect that. So it was like, okay, mom, so we get why we can't spend a night over here, why we can't go over there, and why you want us, acting a certain way, being a certain way. You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right, right.
but yeah, I had to deal with prayer, a lot with prayer. I wanted to get counseling. It just didn't go in that avenue for me. It just didn't happen in that realm. God really took me and did some things with me and allowed me to still have a closeness with my kids, and they
Right,
could tell me everything. I had the open door policy.
right.
You could tell me anything. We get a whole hour. You can tell me anything that you think I wouldn't want to know, or you might get in trouble for. And there's no reprimanding. I cannot reprimand you for not one thing within that hour. As long as you tell me and we keep it true. Oh my goodness. I had all kinds of things. So we won't get in trouble. I said, no, tell me whatever you want. I said, you get the 1 hour, but as long as I don't find it out on the street, as long as
Facts.
you tell it to me.
Right,
So you
right.
get the 1 hour. This is our girl hour time where you can speak freely. And that's what we did. And that opened our communication till we could talk about everything. Me, I couldn't talk to my mother about anything because
Right.
the perpetrator didn't want us communicating.
Mm.
We couldn't talk. We couldn't have a relationship. We could
Crazy
not.
work.
Crazy word. Evil. Yeah. We can
Mm.
have a relationship. Yeah, dare not talk about boys. Oh my God, especially not to him, because if it was up to him, I could never see anybody.
Right,
So definitely it was no talking about those kinds of things. But I wanted that for my kids. I wanted to be different than how I was raised.
right, right. You wanted to show them love the same way your grandma showed it to you.
Yes, yes, I did. Because my mother dated, obviously, I
Right,
came about, she was very young. So she
right,
had dates, but and I guess because of the bad experiences, I could not. I
right.
could not be. So
It's
yeah.
crazy that there are parents still out here like that. But well, that's a whole other story. You are
Yes.
you are wildly known for your poetry. Now, did writing sonnets become therapeutic at one time?
You know what? To be honest, I wrote about everything but this abuse.
Oh
I wrote,
Lord.
yeah, everything. Like wherever I've traveled, I would write about. It was fun. It was good. It was never the real thing that I shut off about me. Like I would always pray. I could pray. I could give good advice, but then they would say, like you're so sweet and so kind. I'm like, yeah, thank you. It's like, what is going on? Like, sometimes like I see you when other people are together with their family or their mothers or whatever, you cool, but I see you go off into a corner. I'm like, yeah, because I like to see that with other people. I
Mm-hmm.
wish that that's were the case. It was the case for me. I had love with my grandmothers, so I didn't miss anything. But just for the sake of, my mother carried me. I wish we would have been closer. I don't wish anything bad ever for my mother. I appreciate her for giving me life. I love my mother. That's my mother. You know what I mean? So I've never been disrespectful to her ever. So at
Right,
the end of the day, I still wish her no nothing. I pray for her all the
right,
time. But guilt has a way of keeping you from people as well. So
right, right. And
I'm
trauma and triggers.
from triggers.
I will say your mother birthed a queen, okay? Like
Thank you. I appreciate
brilliant. You're welcome,
it.
talented,
And
and you were put here to speak on it because these tragedies are still going on. And just like your website, you can't hear hummingbirds, and the children that you have posted is bringing awareness to that.
oh yes, Lord. Oh, and it's so many children. We can't forget them. Literally, when I started this work, I started like God started just giving stories. You could find anything on the internet. I
Mhm.
would see a pop-up and I'm like, child abuse, made me click on it. Child abuse, but it's worse than mine. So I'm like, wow, if I could survive the broken bones or, the beatings and, the seclusion just by yourself, like locked away in starvation. I survived barely, but I survived. But these kids, they're getting, oh my gosh, starved, kept in cages, all these kinds of things. It was even worse than mine. Any kind of abuse is worse. And then I
Right.
start seeing the numbers. Didn't make any sense. I'm like, oh my God, 600,000. 600,000 in the United States. I'm like, wow, 3 million kids in foster care. That says a lot.
Right.
1,997 dead. That says a lot. That's one kid dead too many. So
Right.
how do we help? How do we help? What do we do? What do we do? I'm like, God, this is it. I'm not going to speak angry. I'm not going to write my story and say, he did this and he did that. Yeah, he did. He did. But if I focus on him, I'm still giving him power.
Mhm.
So, no, I'm going to tell the story exactly how it happened, but I want to tell it so it could be helpful to someone else. I don't want to tell it with anger, because if we continue to stay angry at the people or the persons that hurt us, we don't grow. We don't grow.
Right.
God, how can you use me to tell this ugly evil to help other people to break free from it? Because you never break free if you keep saying, "Oh, I can't say that person's name," or you say it with a cuss word. They taking you from where God is trying to elevate you. You see
Right.
what I mean? If every swear word came out of my mouth how it was before in my past, I'm just saying, and that's me being honest. We're human.
Right.
We get angry. So yeah, of course, the words that you may say are not going to come out with the finest of education and the brilliance of mind. When you're mad, you're taking that straight to the hood and the street. I don't care who you are or what color you are.
Okay.
Anyone at that moment can get that. So just saying. So all I'm saying is, if you have those moments, I wanted to not be angry, because that frog in my throat, nobody else was feeling that. That depression, nobody else was feeling that. I'm not about to lose my hair for you. You already done enough.
Right.
I'm not about to be all looking like I'm like aging at a high rate, rapid speed.
Right.
No, we won't be looking like I'm 60 in dog years when I'm in my 30s. It's not going to
Right.
happen. So I say, God, how do I tell my story? And how do I tell it without the anger associated, so I can help educate somebody else? Literally sleeping 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. There it is. It's coming now. All the things I asked him for, the dates, the time. Now you can tell it like
Right.
how I created you to be, without the swearing, because I had to go back and edit some things. That blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Well, God said, no, I can't call him that.
Right.
You have to take that out and get it together. I
Right.
had to get it together. And as I got it together, he started blessing me with other ways of saying, you can give numbers out. You can remain anonymous. You can tell the story of different types of abuse. You
Mhm.
can do that. You can do that differently. Just don't do it with anger. Do it with the mind that I'm giving you. Do it with the
Right.
heart that I'm giving you. Walk. Let me order your steps.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's how it all started to unfold. And all this creative art came out, because I was drawing some mean art at first. Oh my God. It was dark art. I can say that. It was dark art, because I wanted to show you. And I have some of it even on my website, the busted nose, or, the kid in the bed with the eyes. That was dark art, but that's what I felt. That's
Right.
exactly what it was. It was a fist to the face and the head. That's what it
Right.
was. So I'm like, okay, gotta turn my pain into passion, is what you're
Right.
saying, God. And that's what happened.
And you did that. You not only created the website, you've written and produced a movie. Can
I
you
did.
talk about that?
I did a feature. And it's a blessing to get all that out of my head so people can see what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
As visionaries, we try to bring you into our world so you can see it. So I had to create it there. I could talk about it, I could read a book about it, but you're going to draw your own pictures from the book, which is good. But
Right.
I wanted people to see exactly what environment it was like, the things that, how it actually was. So yeah, I took what I could, and God put me with the right connection of the cinematographer, of the editor, and even the people of choice at the time. He allowed me to train them and allowed me to put something together. So I said, you know what, even if this is just so people can see what was going on inside of my head at the time, I can give them a sample. So I took bits and pieces of the story. It's 4 books. It's a book series. So there's $4 coming with this. And so I just wanted to tell bits and pieces of it in hopes to get with the right production people to do a mini series. And so that's what I would like to do. All this is going to, it's so much material that it'll be a mini series that goes on and on and on. And on.
Well, the trailer is absolutely terrifying. I mean, for a child. So I do think that you have something on your hands. I see that you've pitched work before. You've had success as well with your work. Can you talk about that?
Well, I did a play. This was actually a play first before we did that. I did not think that the play would do it well, because literally when you're going through something and you hide and suppress, but now you wear a jacket and you got a good job, so you forgot about that person over there, right? So most of us do. We got a good job now. We got that's the past. I don't want to talk about it. So when I brought this ugly truth out, people was like, I had no idea, like mouth drop. I was like, yeah, I said, because we don't look like the war we've been through. Then I had people telling me their truth. Well, this happened to me and that happened. It's like, wow. They said, thank you for helping me to be okay with coming out about it. Hey, I'm like, I went to my mother first. I went to the family first and said, hey, I think I need to write about what happened. Grandma gave me her blessing on her deathbed. I think I'm going to write about it. No, that's too much. You need to leave that alone. It happened in the past. Leave it alone. I was like, She said, you're grown now. She said, how does it affect you? Oh, it does. Yeah, it really does. It did, and it still does, because I'm not over it. It's like when you're in the same room with this particular person, it's like being hurt all over again. So I'm going to write about it. So with that being said, I wanted to write something that was going to be helpful to people. And I said, God, this is a big story. They don't need to know about my mother, my grandmother, and all this. How do I tell this? You only get so much space for a play that people are going to sit down. So he divinely gave me a section of it to write about so that I would keep it between the perpetrator and myself. So on this stage, there's the perpetrator and there's the little person who plays me at that age, and then the little brother. And then it removed the little brother, and God said, no, just make it about the girl and so that story was just a dynamic with everything that went on between that person and this little girl. Even with the other kids that had little parts, it told the story between the two. You could see it. And people stood up and people were like, we need to see this in a movie. This is so much. I had people coming out and talking about it. The video did go viral when I released it, maybe like a week or so after the play. 2 days, it was like at 67,000, some odd hundred people started hitting me up, following me, saying, hey, listen, I have this story. This was happening to me. So I knew it was a need.
There's definitely a need. Like I said, that the trailer, and if it's the same trailer, you can't hear the hummingbirds. It is terrifying. I mean, but that was your experience.
That was my experience. You can't hear hummingbirds. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a book, and you said you're making it into a series, or
yes,
the
that's
play?
what I would. Well, the play has already been done, and I won awards for the play. This is the actual book. This is one of the book. It's one of out of four books. So this is the first release, and yeah, I had to let people marinate little by little. Read it in little by little, and then you cannot feed it all at one time.
Right.
Yeah, this definitely had to be told in increments.
Right.
And so, yes, I would love to do a mini series. And so that's me and Michael, or, my publicist, we're getting some things lined up, and God is going to do the rest. That's what I can say. We have some things in the works. I'll say that.
Well, we do know, I saw this football player say this quote earlier, that the horses are being prepared for battle, but God gives the victory. And I think you have that. after going through the battle, you have victory. So
Thank
congratulations.
you.
You're welcome. So tell me about everything that you will be doing. You have events coming up and your website information.
Okay, yes. The event that's coming up is the art walk and my book signing. I have a book signing. So I have some art in the Neocultural Center that's here in Galveston. 2217. Oh my goodness. I have a flyer. I'll let you know in just a second. I don't want to say it wrong, but it's called the Neocultural Center. And my website is www.youcanthearhummingbirds, just like the book, youcanthearhummingbirds.com. And the art walk / book signing is November the 30th. It's on the Strand. I think it's 2217 Strand Street. And we're at Suite 101 here in Galveston on the island. So if you guys are on the island, everybody knows the Strand Street's popular. It's the art district. I have some art in there as well. Some of the artwork that I have in the book, well, I don't know if you can see it on the wall. Maybe I'll turn it a little bit. Okay. Can you see some of that here?
Yes.
This is in the book. This one's in the book, and that one's in the book as well. And some of this, like the childhood fun
Wow.
in the old times. So that's in the book. And
You drew
yeah,
all those pieces?
I did. Yeah, it's all in this book, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't do it without getting, beat behind it. So God preserved it for me to do it at this time. So this is like
Wow. Look at
so,
what God put into you.
yeah, so it's like childhood games, when we play, when times were good, because like I said, it was good before, I
Right.
was taken into that. And even with this,
Wow. So detailed. I
yeah,
love it.
thank you. So yeah, so that is coming up. My website again, www.youcanthearhummingbirds. Don't put the apostrophe between the CANT, like can't. Don't put the apostrophe, just CANT, youcanthearhummingbirds.com. And social media, Kiki Lauderdale, KIKILAUDERDALE on Facebook and on Instagram. So that's where they can find me. I have artwork on there. There is an audiobook on there of this book. There's an audiobook. The audiobook will give you an orgasm.
I tell you, it will. I mean, it is what I've heard, what Michael provided before the interview, it is very creative in the sound effects, like everything that you have with that you don't typically hear with audiobooks. Like, I don't know if
Absolutely.
that makes sense, but it is just like watching a film without the actual picture on the screen.
Absolutely. God, I tell you, he did everything because when we were trying to do this book, literally nothing about this book has been the regular way. It's all been ordained because I said, God, every time I start to write, I feel sick. I'm having to remember not just details. I'm having to remember the way the sounds were when he walked and, the way he spoke and all of the things. So now I'm getting nauseous and I'm having to write and think at the same time. So if if you're an artist, if you're trying to create, you don't want to think about the negative and have to write every detail about it either. It's
Right,
taking you longer because now you got to think of words to put down to make this visual for a reader who don't know
right.
anything about your story. So I said, you know what, Jesus, I don't know what I need to do. And just by haps, I had the little microphone lapel attached to me on some other stuff that I'm working on or something else. And I looked at it and God was like, I just heard record it. I said, oh, sweet. So I called my engineer and I was like, hey, I don't know how much this is going to cost me, what kind of time, but do you have any kind of time? Because I need it quiet in the studio. What I'm about to do is do something very, very deep and detailed. And you don't know this about me, but you got to get ready. Just get you
Trust the
something to eat
process.
and trust the process. When I went there and I wrote down a couple of things and I started reading from my notes. I
Right.
could listen to where I needed to edit from my notes. and I can listen to where I need to go back and fill in fillers for my notes. But the outline, when I got done and I took the headphones off, I said, "You didn't stop me one time and tell me where I needed to stop." He said, "I am still processing." I said, "I'm sorry. I'm speechless." He said, "Hey, when do you want to come out? We got to finish this." So that's how that happened. And we just kept going. So it was actually the audiobook that you heard. It was the audiobook before the book.
Right,
After I did the audiobook, I can go in now and now I can listen and write
right,
because
because you're not triggered.
I'm not triggered.
What you doing again?
Talking about,
Where's God? I don't see him.
you don't see him. Well, you see that beautiful moon up there?
Yes, ma'am.
That's God. Baby, God is everywhere. And he listens. You can talk to him about anything.